Hello and welcome, everyone. I am so excited to welcome today's crowd to Alta Live. We have an incredibly exciting conversation with one of my favorite guests and moderators, Gustavo Arellano, on Calendarios de Varilla. These are, you've seen them hanging on the walls of your favorite taqueria, corner bodega, laundromat, accountant. Calendarios de Varilla are the traditional Mexican calendars featuring religious themes, Aztec warriors, beautiful women. Calendarios enthusiast and Alta Journal contributor Gustavo Arellano sits down with Calendarios Landin CEO Julian Urquiza to talk about the community history of these holiday keepsakes. We're going to look at some images, flip through some classic calendar imagery, and discuss, as Gustavo points out, the flex of a business having its own custom calendar. About our guest, Julian. He has been the Chief Executive Officer of Calendarios Landin for over 26 years. Based in Mexico, his company ships more than 1 million calendars to the United States each year. Gustavo is the author of Orange County, A Personal History, and Taco USA, How Mexican Food Conquered America. He is a features writer for the LA Times and has been an essayist and reporter for various publications, as well as frequent commentator on radio and television. He does an amazing tortilla rating contest that is one of my favorite events of the year. He is formerly an editor at OC Weekly and penned the award-winning Ask a Mexican, a nationally syndicated column in which he answered any and all questions about America's spiciest and largest minority. Gustavo is a lifelong resident of Orange County and the proud son of 2 Mexican immigrants, one of whom came to this country in the trunk of a Chevy. Before I turn it over to our 2 guests, a little housekeeping. Alta Live is the digital interview series we do here at Alta Journal. If you are unfamiliar with Alta, we are an award-winning quarterly magazine and website focused on California and the West. You can join us as a member for as little as $3 a month and support the work we do, including our monthly California Book Club, which is free, very fun to join. And in fact, tomorrow evening, we'll be welcoming Isabel Allende discussing her book, The House of the Spirits. Please join us for that. So if you haven't yet joined Alta as a member and have been considering it, I so encourage you to check us out at altaonline.com, consider subscribing and joining us as a member. There is a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen to ask questions for our guests. They will chat for about 30 minutes. Gustavo's going to run this convo and get to as many of your questions as possible. This interview will be recorded and posted to altaonline.com later this afternoon. We are also going to send you an email with Gustavo's article about calendarios, links to Julian's business. You can actually visit a museum in Mexico if you so wish. So stay tuned for that email later on. I love to see people tuning in, letting us know where they're zooming in from in the chat. Hey, Orange County, Cambria, Cupertino, South City. I am in Novato, California. And with that, I will turn it over to my friend Gustavo.
Gracias, Beth. Gracias, all of you, for caring about Alta Journal, for tuning in on your lunch break. I am Gustavo Arellano. I am a columnist for Los Angeles Times, contributing editor, actually, to Alta Journal. And earlier in the year, I was able to write about a subject I had always wanted to, because to me, it is a talisman and the ultimate answer to when people ask you what makes something authentically Mexican. You know, is it tacos? Is it whether you speak Spanish? What is it? No, the answer is one of these. And this is a big one. So I'm going to scroll it myself. Oops, hold on. Scroll it myself all the way through a humongous calendar. That one's a big one. I'll show you a smaller one. And you can tell it's used. One of these, in the United States, we call them Mexican calendars. Technically, they're called Calendarios de Varilla. Varilla referring to the little bar that usually goes there. But they are something that if you grew up in a Mexican household or you grew up with Mexicans from the mother country, they were ubiquitous. They came at the beginning of every year. You always had a new one. They literally functioned as a calendar, but they were wall art. They had images that were just absolutely gorgeous and magnificent. Everyone has a story about Calendarios de Varilla, but if you're Mexican, you know to pick them up at a business, you know that your aunts have them, your grandmas, whatever, but you never really think about the company that makes them. You see some of the logos and you see a particular logo, which I'm going to get to in a little bit. So I had always wanted to do a story about who makes them, what's the business, and I was so happy to be able to finally do it for Alta's newsletter about the company, the biggest company that makes them, Calendarios Landin. And so to do it, I figured, all right, I'll call up the CEO, who of course is my guest, Don Julian Urquiza. I'm like, I'll talk to him for 20 minutes, get some good quotes. That's that. Instead, Don Julian tells me, do you have some time? Do you have some time to actually talk? I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah, of course I do. He ended up taking me on a tour, and one of you have actually been on the tour of the Calendarios Landin Museum, a 2-hour tour. It was one of the most remarkable and fun interviews I ever did. And you know, sometime this summer, I'm going to fly down there to see it in person. But right now, in the meanwhile, we have on Zoom here, Don Julian Urquiza. Welcome to Alta Live. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Oh, thank you, Beth. Thank you, Gustavo. Thank you for having me here. And it's well, just to clarify, I've been working here for more than 26 years, but not always as a CEO. Most of the time, I work here as a sales manager, but the last 5 or 6 years, I've been working here as a CEO. Just to clarify that.
Yeah, I'll always give respect to, you know, to the people, the family that made it, and Don Julian now is of course part of that family. One of the things I loved about the tour, Don Julian, is that the tour is not just showing off how awesome Calendarios Landin is. It's not just about the company. It is about the history of the Mexican calendar and also the history of calendars. So you had examples of a Chinese zodiac. You had examples, digital calendars. You have a life-size replica of the famous Aztec calendar. The stone was a 26-ton thing that is very iconic. But in your mind, what makes Calendarios de Varilla the best calendars of them all?
Oof. Well, it's not me, it's our customers. It's a pretty valuable, sorry about my English.
Si quiere hablar en español, dígame and I'll translate.
Well, our customers are they who make the Calendario de Varilla the most the best calendar, because it offers them a lot of not just a calendario. It offers them art to decorate their homes. It offers them an object to plan. It's like an agenda, but and also they function as a gift, as a recognition of who gave them the calendar. So it's not just one thing. The Calendario de Varilla offers a lot of benefits to the final user, right? And for the customer, the taqueria who buy the calendars from us, it's pretty cheap
advertisement.
Advertisement. It's like a cents of a dollar, or it's pretty cheap to be in the mind of their customers the whole year, right? So it's kind of weird, but it's the only advertisement, the only advertised product that not only is allowed to be in the customer's house or in the customer's kitchen or in the customer's well, in the very heart of his house, right?
Yeah, well, I loved how you described it. You know, you get a flyer for a business, you read it, you throw it away. You see a commercial, you forget about it. But the calendarios, you hang on your wall. This big one aquí, I'll just show it again. And this is from my family's, my great-grand chocolate factory, Chocolate Ferví de Jerez, Zacatecas. I have it hanging here the entire time. Every time I see it, I think of the company, I see the art, but I also like how you describe how these calendars are, es como un portal, it's a portal directly to Mexico. Can you talk a little bit about that, how these calendars, the power, that the nostalgia that they create and the memories?
Yes, let's think about, maybe we call them Yolanda and Alfredo, who went to the States as your parents did, right? And they finally open a taqueria, right? Let's say they are in Orange County, but they originally are from, I don't know, maybe Zitácuaro, Michoacán, a tiny town in Michoacán, in Mexico. When they acquire these Mexican calendars, let's say that, let's imagine the meridian lines that are in our planet, right? And let's get rid of that meridian lines of the planet. And once Yolanda and Alfredo acquire these calendars, it's like an anchor to Zitácuaro. It's a kind of solve and live better with this nostalgia and this, I'm Mexican, but I cannot live there. I'm from Zitácuaro, but now I'm in Orange County. I miss the food, I miss my friends, I miss my family, I miss the weather. But this calendar, it's like an anchor to my traditions, to my roots, right?
Yeah.
The Calendario de Varilla offers not just a planner. It solves a lot of I don't know how to say it.
En español, dígalo.
En español, ok. Ofrece el resolver muchas necesidades, particularmente para los mexicanos que viven en los Estados Unidos y que añoran su patria, su lugar, su Zitácuaro.
It solves a lot of the necessities, especially for the Mexican immigrant in the United States that misses their Zitácuaro. And just as a perfect illustration, so this calendario right here, you see this photo right here, it is a photo of my mom's rancho, the village of El Cargadero, Jerez, Zacatecas. Population 200. Zacatecas. In Anaheim, California alone, there's over 1,000 of us with roots from there. But you see this calendario, and this is from the Club Social, the Hometown Benefit Association. And this is actually from probably 20 years ago. They would hand them out and everyone would hang them on that wall. So, you know, everyone has a calendar. We have them in Outlook. If you're at your desktop, you have, you know, quote of the day, a Garfield calendar. Maybe you used to have Dilbert, but not anymore. But these calendars, none are going to be more beautiful. None are going to be more beautiful. Don Julian, what is it about Mexicans? You know, because you could think something like this might exist all over the world, but what is it about the Mexican soul, la alma mexicana, that makes El Calendario de Varilla such a Mexican thing and that could only come from Mexico?
Well, it is a pretty old tradition in Mexico for the businesses that gives a Christmas present to their customers. We in Mexico have a saying that says, oye, ya merezco calendario, ¿no?
I deserve it's time for me to get a calendar. I deserve a calendar, right?
Yes, yes, because I've been buying all the things that I need from your business. So it's time for me to receive a calendar from you, right? It's a lot of things. Well, we as a Mexican company, we are dedicated to spread the Mexicanity. I don't know if the term is right.
Mexicanidad. No, Mexicanness, I would say. Yeah, Mexican.
Yes.
But it sounds better in Spanish.
Yeah. And it's a pretty old tradition in the Mexican culture that every business needs to have a calendar to give as a Christmas present to their customers. And well, is that it? Is in the roots of the Mexican culture.
And again, folks, one of the things that's so amazing, to put it nicely, a lot of these calendars are propaganda for Mexicanidad. Like you see images, you see history, you see photos, you see gorgeous paintings, which we're going to get to in a little bit. And there's a lot of companies that make Calendarios de Varilla, but Calendarios Landin is the most iconic one, particularly because they own the rights to what we associate as a classic Mexican calendar, but we're going to get to that in a little bit. But Don Julian, if you could just give us a brief history of your company. When did it originate? What are some of the numbers that you folks are proud of? Y todo eso.
Okay. Well, the company was founded by Roberto Landin. He passed away 3 years ago. He began to sell calendars when he was about, I think, 15 years. 15 years of age of him. He came from a family that works in the printing industry since his bisabuelo, his great-grandfather.
Yeah.
Great-grandfather, okay. And he lived between calendars all his life, right? He began to sell calendars. He was first a salesman, calendar salesman, right? And then he began to work in the company of the family, and then by now this company is owned by two families: the Landin family and the Simon family. The Simon family also is they have a pretty old tradition in the printing industry in Mexico. I don't know, Gustavo, if you remember the old Colgate toothpaste that came in a box of hard, I don't know, carton box. I don't know.
De cartón.
Okay.
Yeah.
Una caja de cartón. Well, the Simon family print those kind of things since pretty old days, right? And this company, well, first, Don Roberto was in Mexico City, in Vallejo, in the north of Mexico City. And in the 80s or early 80s, they came to Querétaro because Mexico City was pretty crowded. So Don Roberto was from Aguascalientes, and he knows what was to be not living in Mexico City. He wants to go out of Mexico City. And then in the early 80s, they come to Querétaro to put that all the operation, all the facilities here in Querétaro. And since then, Calendarios Landin is in Querétaro. All the calendars that we sell are made here by Mexican hands. And well, about in 2015, Don Roberto opened the museum. Okay, there is a room in the museum that talks about Calendarios Landin as a company, but as you say correctly, the museum is about the history of the calendars, and once you go to the museum, if you visit all the rooms, it's like if you have a time travel of the recent Mexican history.
Yeah,
right?
it is absolutely amazing. Again, folks, you have to actually go to Querétaro. We don't have 2 hours to do the actual tour. And so the way the calendarios, there's so many images. There's photos, there's maps, there's illustrations, there's little ones. I used to have a calendario, Landin, had images of all Aztec emperors. I probably have it somewhere. It's beautiful. But the most iconic images, but the most iconic images associated with Mexican calendars is from one artist, and you see an example of his art right behind Don Julian. So Jesus Higuera is like, when you think of Mexican calendars, you think of an image just like that. Pastels, very soft, very iconic, huge images. Can you tell us a little bit about who the artist was and why are his images so popular?
Okay, Jesus Higuera was a Mexican from Parral, Chihuahua. He went to Spain as a child, and there they noticed that he has he was very good drawing, right? Mm-hmm. And then he began to study in Madrid, I think. And well, by now, Jesus Higuera is admired by painters that this paint that I have here is an original. We do not have originals. This one is, and it is a challenge for the actual painters to copy the technique and the way that Jesus Higuera painted his paintings, right? And Jesus Higuera was very prolific in we are talking about 1940s, 1950s, and the photo, it's in that time was very hard to have a camera, right?
Yeah.
And what the calendars factories do was to ask for the painters that, okay, I need to paint this scene. I need to put this scene in the calendar. So they ask for a painter that, okay, try to do this thing that I need. So the painter goes, makes a boceto. It's not an ended painting. Then comes to the calendar making factory, presented to this guy, and if it was okay, now we make the whole paint, right? The quality, just not just the technique that Jesus Higuera has, but the romantic paintings, the idyllic Mexicanity that he put on his work, well, were the whole users of calendars, were they who make great Jesus Higuera. there were a lot of master paintings for calendars, but this one, Jesus Helguera, was the pinnacle of the painters for the calendars, right?
Yeah. People, I mean, again, they're iconic. You think of an Aztec warrior holding his beloved, that's Jesus Helguera. You think of a woman with a big Mexican flag marching proudly, that's Jesus Helguera. Here's going to be some photos really quickly, and we're going to do some slides in a bit as well. And the key thing for Calendarios Landin, one of the reasons why I mention it is because even though they don't own the originals, Landin owns the copyright to all the Jesus Helguera works, which you think about it, it is absolutely amazing. So Beth, if you could actually do the slideshow right now, then we'll just talk about it, talk just a little bit more about it. So Don Julian, we're going to see some of the images that are in the Museo del Calendario in a bit. Once Beth does her thing. Here we go. Okay. So that's the museum right there, going all the way backwards. So all right, we could go. So there's Jesus, you know, religious iconography is important. That's one right there. Do you know the story behind that one, Don Julian?
Not all of them, because you see, we as we do not have the originals, we just have the rights to print them. There are a lot of originals that we don't know where they are.
Oh, wow.
Yes. They are in private collections over the world, spread it. This is the tradition in Mexico, this la presentación de los animales en el templo.
The presentation of the animals in the temple to be blessed.
Yes, la bendición de los animales. It's an idyllic, romantic Mexico that we do not have anymore. Well, in some places like Zitácuaro,
and Querétaro, of course,
they still do these kind of things. But the way the people were dressed, the romantic, idyllic way to put this. It's hard for now for you to see that kind of things in the real Mexico today.
Yeah, and what I also love about this, at the very bottom, you see the business, Manuel's Odessa tortilla factory and tamale factory in Odessa, Texas. Like, they're everywhere, all across the United States. If you could go through them slowly, Beth, and then we will be going to questions. There's Jesus right there. That's not Helguera, but that's a beautiful. That's Carroceria Gonzalez. Move on to the next one, please. That's an interesting one, because you would see this more like a Norman Rockwell style painting, but here it is in Mexico, La Popular. That's going to be a clothing store. Next one, please. You know, that is well, she could be from Jalisco. She's very light skinned.
Sorry for interrupting you, Gustavo, but this one is interesting because the day path, you see that the day path do not fix with the width of the calendar. In those days, those details were not important, but not anymore. Today, the day paths are fixed to the width, to the whole width of the calendar, right?
Yeah. Yeah, in other words, the dates were not really important. It was about the image itself. You see how small the actual dates are, the little which you tear off. Next image, please. Go through these. That's just, again, looks like Norman Rockwell. That says, unique bottler orange crush soda of Puebla, 1950. Next one. Oh, that's a beautiful one right there. That's classic Helguera. Look at the brightness, but also the shadows in the back, the dress, the detail of him. He's just incredible. Next one, please. That one, Tequila Cuervo, Jose Cuervo back in the day. Next one. And like, I mean, look at this Mexico, this idealized, beautiful Mexico. And now you could also buy just a small little card. So folks, if you have any questions, I know we have some right now, start asking them. I'm going to ask Don Julian one more, then we'll get to your questions. But Don Julian, what is the future then for, especially in this day and age, where we're so digitized, where we have our calendars on our phones. What is the future of El Calendario de Varilla?
Okay, let me ask you like this. I'm in my desk right now. I have my computer here. I have my cell phone here, but also I have my calendar here. It's quicker for me to just to see the calendar, and I have the date, instead of go to the computer, make a lot of clicks, or in the cell phone, make a lot of clicks. And well, the future is, I will answer you like this. If you have an object that is so embedded, so in the core of the culture, it will be easy to erase it. Let's say the calendar is so Mexican, so traditional, so Mexican.
Yeah.
That we have a bright future with the calendar. Okay, we have the technology, but the technology cannot decorate your house. The technology cannot recognize you as a valued customer of the business that gives you the calendar. The technology doesn't have that anchor to the place of origin of you or your
Where you're
family.
from, yeah.
Yes. So all of that things makes a bright future for the calendar. We're struggling, yes, with I have a calendar here. I don't need a calendar there. Well, yes, but there is a tradition. It's a lot of benefits that you do not have in the technology that the calendar offer to you.
I mean, I would say technology doesn't have a soul. The Calendarios de Varilla, it's all about soul. It's all about emotion. It's all about beauty. And just in case you folks don't know this, like the way you get these calendars is you go to your local business and they give them to you. So it is that little gift. I don't think your local restaurant's going to give you an iPhone calendar every single year. No one will want that anyways to begin with. We're starting to get some questions now. The first one comes from Jackie. Jackie asks, does the painting behind Don Julian depict El Grito? It does not, but let's see. A ver qué tan mexicano soy. I'm going to try to guess who that person is in the back. ¿Es José María Morales? Morelos?
Morelos yeah. is
yeah, I'm pretty Mexican.
Okay, yeah. Is José María Morelos is a hero from the independence of Mexico.
Yeah, as you know, just legendary, one of the heroes along. And Jackie, you're referring El Grito. That's Miguel Hidalgo y Costilla. There's a Calendario de Varilla that depicts that as well. Dale asks, how seasonal is the business? How early do customers have to order for their customers? And does the company produce year round?
Okay, we sell calendars from January until August. Let's say September, the latest, but we have to deliver the calendars before December, right? So we need a lot of time to produce them. All the calendars are made here in Querétaro, so we have a lot of, we need a lot of time. So if you make your order right now, you will be on time.
Let's go to Catherine Romero asks, how far in advance do you take orders, and is the print ordering online?
Well, not online because, well, we have salesmen in the States, but recently we have the digital catalog. You see, this is our catalog, and you can choose from almost 1,000 pictures on it. So how Can you repeat the
Sí,
question?
¿cuál es la cosa? Que how far in advance? ¿Qué tanto en
Okay.
avance lo tiene que ordenar?
I think that August will be a good time for the latest orders.
This is one of the amazing things that I found, and no one do this story. I'm going to do the story, okay? I call it, but Calendarios Ladrin, they still have Landin, they still have salespeople who go around to all their clients all around the United States. We're talking about salespeople with relationships with businesses for 35 years, and they go all day with that catalog. That is just so old school and so beautiful. One of the people that I interviewed, La Princesita Tortilleria in East LA, they're not a customer of Calendarios Landin. I don't know why, but they said, I remember my parents taking the entire day, se dan su té, they drink their tea and they talk about it, just flipping through this. So this is really just old school, beautiful traditions. Again, it is something. Clarissa says, I love my annual calendar I received from Rancho Gordo Beans. Of course, Steve Sandoz, a good friend of mine. He ordered, I believe, 30,000 calendars. And Rebecca asked, how do you go around getting the calendar from Rancho Gordo? I buy their beans. Steve used to, if you belong to their Bean of the Month club, he used to give them out for free, but he stopped doing that because too many people would throw them away. And Steve is a huge, huge fan of Calendarios de Varilla. Look at Don Julian, already upset, rightfully so. So what Steve does now is charges members $1, just $1, because the whole thing of a Calendario de Varilla, they're a gift. They are not, for Landin, it's a moneymaker. Of course, that's the business, but for these businesses, they buy it, and they ultimately, they'll turn into a moneymaker for them, right, Don Julian, by giving out these calendarios?
Yes, of course. For a customer, for us, the taqueria, if the taqueria makes an order from us, and just one calendar makes a new customer for the taqueria, it's the whole order is paid for just one new customer. And the customers that buy calendars from us, they know that not just one calendar will provide them a new customer. There are a lot of new customers coming because of the promotional message that has that is on the calendar. So it is a win-win situation, right?
Yeah, any of you who have businesses, folks, get your Calendario de Varilla, sign up with Calendarios Landin. My good friend Tish, hey, what's up, Tish, from San Diego? She says, would be nice to find a Mexican store in San Diego to get a calendar. The ones I go to don't give them out. I would probably go to the supermarkets, like Northgate Gonzalez supermarkets. I know they give out Calendarios de Varilla for sure. And just ask around with your friends. A question in Spanish. Miriam says, los calendarios son bonitos. ¿Qué es lo que sigue inspirando las ideas de los calendarios?
Las sugerencias de los clientes. Como nosotros vemos directamente a los clientes, as we go directly with the customers, and let's say I begin to sell calendars to the grandfather, then to the father. By now, I go to the young guy that rules the business, and you have a first line comments of the customers, and you have to listen to them and then put the suggestions on the catalog, right?
Yeah, and the question in English, by the way, was the calendars are beautiful. What is it that keeps inspiring these ideas for the calendars? And it's really the suggestions of the owners, the needs and demands of the business. What do we call it? The businessman. And one more question Beth tells me. So let's go to Beth's question, actually. Do other countries outside of Mexico do calendarios de varilla? Or I'll ask it this way. So el calendario de varilla is so connected to Mexico and Mexican identity. Are there other examples like that? In other words, other countries who have their own unique calendar traditions?
Well, yes, in Central America, there are some companies that make calendarios de varilla. Also in Spain and in China, in some regions of China, they they also do the calendars.
Yeah, and if you've been to Chinese restaurants, especially, you'll kind of see it like that. You know, you have images again of an idyllic China. You'll have the zodiac. You'll have the calendar in their fashion. One of the things I've always loved about Mexican calendars, of course, is you have all the dates right here, but you also have the lunar cycles, and most importantly for me, the saints' day. So you get all these obscure saints, San Ildefonso, too many to mention. That's a whole other that's a whole
San
other
Gustavo.
conversation. No, there's no San Gustavo, sadly.
No?
No. El día de mi santo es San Blas. So the day of my saint, I was born February 3rd. So the saint for there is Saint Blaise. Do you want me to be called Blaise? No. Blas, it sounds cooler in Spanish. But Don Julian, thank you so much for this conversation. Any final words?
No, just say thank you for you and Beth for having me. And well, just get in touch if you are interested in put an order of calendars. There are our links in this, and just get in touch with the company. We send you a salesman, or if you want, we can do it by phone directly or by email.
Yes, folks, and go to your local businesses. And yes, a Saint Blaise Serrega is the patron saint of Alta Journal, along with Saint, William
Blaise
Randolph
Serrega
III.
being our editorial director.
Thank you all for your questions. I'm sorry if I couldn't get them. You could always email me, but Saint Beth of the Spotwood will take it away.
Thank you both so much, Julian and Gustavo. That was Gustavo, you always bring us such like a new kind of open up a new world for us. And I think that most of us in the chat have agreed that we will be going on a road trip to the Calendarios Museum. Gustavo, we'll hire you to lead it and we'll all go.
Let's do it. Hey,
we'll have a grand time
we do it all the time.
Until we get that underway. Please join us next week. I'm so excited to welcome William Deverell from the USC Huntington Institute on California in the West. He and his colleague are historical consultants on the HBO show Perry Mason, and they're going to tell us how they helped HBO keep that show historically accurate to LA in 1933. So if you're a SoCal buff, a history buff, an HBO buff, please join us for that. That's Wednesday, March 22nd at 12:30. Again, this has been recorded and will be emailed to all of you. I am so grateful again to our guests today. This was so much fun. Thank you. And we will see you next time.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Take care, all.